Welcome to my channel. Today we explored the UK 1 shilling coin. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, my friends. Every coin has a story, and who knows, maybe one day it could make you feel like a billionaire. Stay tuned and subscribe for more rare coin treasures. Would you like me to also create a short punchy version, around 10 seconds, that you can easily use across all your coin videos? Welcome to my channel. Today we explored the UK 1 shilling coin. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, my friends. Every coin has a story, and who knows, maybe one day it could make you feel like a billionaire. Stay tuned and subscribe for more rare coin treasures. Would you like me to also create? Here's a long, detailed 10-minute style explanation for the 1957 United Kingdom 1 shilling coin of Queen Elizabeth II. Di Gratia Regina, FID Def. The 1957 1 shilling coin of the United Kingdom is an important piece of British pre-decimal coinage, struck in the early years of Queen Elizabeth II's reign. The shilling, equal to 12 pence or 1/20th of a pound sterling, was a central part of everyday commerce in Britain for centuries, and the 1957 issue reflects the continuation of that tradition at a time when the nation was modernizing rapidly in the post-war years. On the obverse front of the coin, we find the first official portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by the talented sculptor Mary Gillick. This youthful effigy shows the Queen facing right, wearing a laurel wreath tied with ribbons, rather than the more formal crown seen on many previous monarchs' coinage. The design was chosen to symbolize vitality, optimism, and continuity, and it marked a fresh start for Britain under its new monarch. Surrounding the portrait is the Latin inscription, Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina F. Laughing Face, which translates to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. This emphasizes both the divine legitimacy of her rule and her role as head of the Church of England. The reverse back of the 1957 shilling is particularly interesting because two different designs were used to represent the constituent nations of the United Kingdom. For England, the coin shows a bold three-lions passant shield, the royal arms of England, surmounted by a crown, while for Scotland, another version was issued featuring a lion rampant within a double trachure flory counterflory and a crown. Both designs were created by the engraver Edgar Fuller with modeling by Cecil Thomas. Around the edge of the reverse is the denomination and year, written as 1 shilling 1957, along with the abbreviation FID Def for Fidei Defensor, or Defender of the Faith. This Latin title has appeared on English and later British coinage since the reign of Henry VIII. The presence of two distinct shilling types, the English and Scottish, reflected the cultural and political recognition of the United Kingdom's different nations within the coinage system. From a technical perspective, the 1957 shilling was struck in cupronickel, 75% copper, 25% nickel. This composition had been standard since 1947, when silver was permanently removed from circulating British coins due to rising costs and the need to conserve precious metals in the post-war economy. The coin weighs about 5.65 grams, has a diameter of 23.5 millimeters, and a milled edge. In terms of monetary value, it represented 1/20th of a pound and was widely used in daily transactions. At the time, 1 shilling could purchase small groceries, pay part of a bus fare, or buy household necessities, making it a coin that passed through countless hands in everyday life. Historically, the shilling is a denomination with deep roots in English and British currency, dating back to the 16th century. By the 1950s, however, the coin was beginning to stand on the threshold of change. Britain was already considering decimalization, a system eventually adopted in 1971, and the shilling would eventually be replaced by the 5 new pence coin, which had nearly the same size and value. Nevertheless, in 1957 the shilling was still firmly entrenched as one of the most useful coins in circulation, both practical and symbolic of continuity with centuries of monetary tradition. For collectors, the 1957 1 shilling is not a rare coin, as millions were produced for circulation. However, it remains a sought-after piece for those interested in assembling full-date runs of Queen Elizabeth II's early coinage. Coins in heavily circulated condition are common and inexpensive, while uncirculated or proof-like specimens are more desirable, especially if well preserved with sharp details and original mint luster. Collectors often value the coin not only for its beauty and history, but also for the fact that it represents Elizabeth II's first decade on the throne, a time of national rebuilding, optimism, and modernization. In conclusion, the 1957 One Shilling coin embodies the essence of mid-20th century British currency. With its youthful portrait of the Queen, its heraldic reverse designs honoring England and Scotland, and its place within the long lineage of shillings stretching back centuries, it serves as both a functional monetary tool and a piece of history. Today, though no longer legal tender, it remains an enduring symbol of the United Kingdom's pre-decimal heritage, offering collectors and historians alike a tangible connection to the people, economy, and monarchy of the era. Would you like me to also prepare the 1953 One Shilling, which was the very first Elizabeth II shilling, marking the coronation year and the beginning of her coinage series? Here's a long, detailed 10-minute style explanation for the 1956 United Kingdom One Shilling coin of Queen Elizabeth II, inscribed Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina, FID Def. The 1956 One Shilling coin is part of the early coinage of Queen Elizabeth II, struck only a few years after she ascended the throne in 1952. The shilling, equal to 12 pre-decimal pence or 1/20th of a pound sterling, was one of the backbone coins of the British currency system for centuries, and its mid-20th century issues combined traditional heraldic symbolism with a fresh, modern portrait of the young queen. On the obverse front of the 1956 coin appears the first official portrait of Elizabeth II, designed by Mary Gillick. This effigy shows the queen facing right, wearing a simple laurel wreath instead of a crown. The design was intended to reflect youth, vitality, and a sense of renewal for Britain after the hardships of World War II. Around the portrait is the Latin legend, Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina F. Laughing Face, which expands to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. This inscription asserts both her royal and religious authority, continuing the long numismatic tradition of linking monarchy with divine legitimacy and national faith. The reverse of the 1956 shilling is notable because, as with other Elizabethan shillings of the period, there were two distinct designs, one for England and one for Scotland. The English type features the crowned three lions passant guardant shield, the royal arms of England, while the Scottish type shows a crowned lion rampant within a double-traced surflory counterflory, symbolizing Scotland's heraldic arms. Both designs were created by Edgar Fuller, with engraving modeled by Cecil Thomas, and the use of two different reverses reflected the recognition of England and Scotland's separate identities within the United Kingdom. Surrounding the central device is the denomination and date inscription. One Shilling 1956, with FID Def, short for Fidei Defensor, or Defender of the Faith. Incorporated, a title originally granted to Henry VIII by the Pope and retained by successive monarchs as a statement of their religious role. From a technical standpoint, the 1956 One Shilling was struck in cupronickel, 75% copper, 25% nickel, following the post-1947 reform that permanently removed silver from circulating British coins. This change was necessary because of the high cost and scarcity of silver in the post-war years. The coin weighs approximately 5.65 grams, has a diameter of 23.5 millimeters, and features a milled, reeded edge. These specifications gave the shilling a distinctive feel in hand and made it practical for circulation. During the 1950s, a shilling held useful purchasing power, enough to buy groceries, pay for public transport, or contribute to household needs, making it one of the most widely used coins in daily life. Historically, the shilling had been part of English and British coinage since the 16th century, and by 1956 it was a familiar denomination deeply ingrained in the national consciousness. However, this coin also stood on the cusp of change, as Britain began discussions about decimalization, which would ultimately arrive in 1971 and replace the shilling with the 5 new pence coin. Thus, the 1956 issue represents one of the final decades of the traditional pre-decimal system. For many people alive in the 1950s, the shilling was associated with everyday life, childhood memories, and the enduring traditions of British money. In terms of mintage, the 1956 shilling was produced in large numbers for general circulation, and as such, it is not considered rare. However, it still holds strong collector appeal, particularly as part of a complete series of early Elizabeth II coins. The condition of the coin greatly influences its value. Worn circulated examples are common and inexpensive, while uncirculated specimens with sharp detail and mint luster are significantly more desirable. Collectors also distinguish between the English and Scottish reverse types, with many aiming to collect both versions for each year, making the 1956 pair an essential part of a full set. The historical and cultural context of the coin adds depth to its significance. Britain in 1956 was still recovering from wartime austerity, but was also entering a period of modernization and global redefinition of its role, as the empire gave way to the Commonwealth. The shilling of this year, therefore, can be seen as a symbol of continuity, linking centuries of coinage tradition with a youthful monarch who represented a hopeful future. In conclusion, the 1956 One Shilling of Queen Elizabeth II is more than just a piece of currency. It is a compact historical document. With its heraldic symbolism, its youthful portrait of the Queen, and its practical role in everyday commerce, it bridges the gap between Britain's long numismatic history and the modern age. Today, though no longer in circulation, it continues to capture the attention of collectors and historians as a reminder of both the stability and transformation of mid-20th century Britain. Would you like me to also prepare a comparison of the 1956 English versus Scottish shilling designs, so you can see the differences more clearly for your video script? Here's a long, detailed 10-minute style explanation for the 1959 United Kingdom One Shilling coin of Queen Elizabeth II, inscribed Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina, FID Def. The 1959 One Shilling coin of the United Kingdom is an important piece from the early years of Queen Elizabeth II's reign, struck only 7 years after she became monarch in 1952. The denomination of 1 shilling, worth 12 pre-decimal pence or 1/20th of a pound sterling, had been a staple of British money for centuries, and in 1959 it remained one of the most widely used coins in circulation. The obverse front features the first official portrait of Queen Elizabeth II by the sculptor Mary Gillick, showing the young queen facing right and wearing a simple laurel wreath rather than a crown. This portrait was admired for its natural, graceful appearance, symbolizing renewal and youth in the post-war years of Britain. Around the effigy is the Latin legend, Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina F Laughing Face, which translates to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. This inscription reflects the monarch's divine right, constitutional role, and spiritual responsibility as head of the Church of England. On the reverse back, as with other Elizabeth II shillings of the 1950s, there were 2 distinct reverse designs to honor the separate traditions of England and Scotland. The English type displays the crowned shield of the Royal Arms of England with 3 lions passant guardant, designed by Edgar Fuller and modeled by Cecil Thomas. The Scottish type shows a crowned lion rampant within a double tracé flory counterflory, a traditional Scottish heraldic design. Both are encircled by the denomination inscription, 1 shilling, and the date 1959. These designs emphasize the unity of the United Kingdom, while also giving recognition to the historic national symbols of its constituent countries. The inclusion of the abbreviation FID Def, for Fidei Defensor, Defender of the Faith, links back to a title first granted to King Henry VIII and retained by successive monarchs, continuing a line of both political and religious authority. The 1959 One Shilling was struck in cupronickel, 75% copper, 25% nickel, a metal alloy adopted after 1947 when silver was permanently removed from British circulating coins due to post-war economic constraints. The specifications of the coin were consistent with earlier issues. It weighed about 5.65 grams, measured 23.5 millimeters in diameter, and had a milled, reeded edge. These details gave the coin a reliable feel in the hand and also made it resistant to counterfeiting. In the 1950s, the shilling carried considerable purchasing power, enough to pay for bus fares, groceries, or daily household necessities, and it was an essential part of Britain's daily economy. Historically, the shilling dated back to the 16th century and had served as a key denomination through the reigns of Tudor, Stuart, and Hanoverian monarchs. By 1959, the shilling was deeply rooted in public consciousness, although Britain was beginning to discuss modernizing its currency system. Decimalization was still more than a decade away, but the shilling would eventually be replaced in 1971 by the 5 new pence coin, which shared the same size and value. Thus, the 1959 issue represents part of the final era of the old pre-decimal coinage, making it an attractive coin for collectors who value pieces that bridge tradition and change. From a numismatic standpoint, the 1959 shilling was struck in significant quantities for circulation, and so most examples today are common in worn condition. However, the appeal for collectors lies in obtaining well-preserved coins, especially uncirculated or proof-like specimens that retain their original mint luster. Both the English and Scottish types are collected, and many enthusiasts aim to assemble complete year-by-year sets of both designs. Coins with minimal wear, sharp details, and no discoloration are far more desirable and can carry a premium over their face value, particularly in the modern coin market, where early Elizabeth II issues are gaining popularity. Culturally and historically, the coin also reflects the Britain of the late 1950s, a country in transition. In 1959, Britain was rebuilding its global identity, balancing tradition with modernization, and the youthful image of Elizabeth II symbolized stability in a rapidly changing world. The shilling, therefore, was not just currency. It was part of the everyday life of millions of people, linking generations through its enduring design and value. In summary, the 1959 Elizabeth II One Shilling is a coin of continuity and heritage. With its youthful royal portrait, heraldic reverses honoring both England and Scotland, durable cupronickel composition, and role as a vital everyday coin, it captures a vivid snapshot of mid-20th century Britain. Though no longer in use since decimalization, it remains a prized collectible, valued for its history, symbolism, and connection to the early reign of Queen Elizabeth II. Do you want me to also prepare a collector's value breakdown for the 1959 shilling, circulated, fine, uncirculated, so your script can also highlight what makes it valuable today?